Ever get this like nagging feeling that maybe, just maybe, the systems we're a part of, well, they're not really all that great?
It's like we're all tangled up in this web, right?
Yeah. And today we're going deep, like really deep into this idea that you can't really fight against oppression, truly fight it, if you're actually funding the very thing that keeps it going.
It's a tough pill to swallow, for sure. It's this tension, like we believe in equality, we talk the talk, but...
But are we walking the walk?
Exactly.
It's like that time, right, when I was super passionate about animal rights, but still, like, craved a burger. Ugh, the hypocrisy. Or think about protesting climate change, but still using, I don't know, tons of single-use plastic.
It's that disconnect.
Big time. And this isn't about guilt trips, right? It's more about...
It's systemic. We're all woven into these systems, whether we like it or not.
Exactly. But to change anything, you got to admit it's real. And this affects more people than you think. We're talking middle class, working class, BIPOC communities, even activists.
It's everywhere. That just shows how deep this runs.
It's so easy to just point fingers, but real change.
It has to start with you, looking inward.
So let's talk about the problem. You can't be against oppression if you're funding it. It's kind of like a paradox, isn't it?
It is. And it's a trap we all fall into. We might boycott one company, but then...
support another one doing the same stuff.
Yep. Or we slam a politician for being all talk and no action on equality, but do we actually do anything in our own communities?
It's not just spending either, right? Blindly trusting politicians, accepting low wages.
Especially in fields where, certain groups are overrepresented.
Totally. That just reinforces the problem.
Yeah.
And voting without really digging into a candidate's stance.
That's how bad policies stick around. It all goes back to complicity. Are we just accepting things? Or are we dismantling the systems causing the harm?
Okay, I got to confess something. Used to be all about fast fashion. Cheap, trendy, the works. But then the guilt. I was basically supporting exploitative labor, hurting the environment, all for an outfit I'd wear like twice.
But you recognized it. And that's what matters. You changed. It's not about perfection,
It was a wake-up call, like even small choices.
They have a ripple effect.
For real. So, if we're all stuck in this system, how do we break free?
It's about going from feeling helpless to actually having some control. We have power.
The first step, and this is huge, is looking at what we buy. Where's our money going? Are we supporting companies that match our values?
You got to ask those questions. Become a conscious consumer. Look past the marketing. Do they pay fair wages? Environmentally responsible? Ethical sourcing?
What if the answer is no? What do we do?
Redirect our spending. Support local, ethical businesses. It can change everything.
It's investing in our own communities, right? Putting our money where our heart is.
It might cost a bit more, but...
it's an investment in a better future.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual change either.
It's collective, right?
Absolutely. Holding our leaders accountable is a big part of this.
More than just voting, right?
Way more. Stay informed, do your research, town halls, contact your representatives.
When I first started making changes, I was like, what difference can I make? But then, get this, I started buying from a local farmer instead of the supermarket. A few months later, he was able to hire someone from my neighborhood because of the extra business.
See, your choices matter. It's not about instant revolution. It's about building over time.
So it's not just about feeling good, it's about doing good.
And that feeling of knowing you're making a difference, it's empowering.
Why is it so important to do this now, though?
Because things are getting worse.
Yeah.
Inequality, climate change, social unrest, all connected to these messed up systems.
It's like a tipping point, yeah.
Exactly. We can't be complacent. Action is needed, like now.
And it has to be collective, right? Not just me doing my own thing.
We need movements. We need to organize, demand change from the top down.
What about those community-led initiatives? Why are they so important?
They give the power to the people actually affected. They know their needs best, right? They come up with solutions that actually work for them.
It's flipping the script instead of top-down solutions.
It's grassroots, from the ground up.
We've talked a lot about the outside stuff, spending, politics, community action. But what about looking inward?
That's where the real change happens. It's not enough to just change what you do. You got to look at your beliefs, your biases.
But those are so deep-rooted. How do we even start?
Honestly, ask yourself the tough questions. What privileges do I have? What assumptions do I make? Am I contributing to the harm without even realizing it?
It's getting uncomfortable, right?
You have to. It's not a one-time thing either. It's constantly learning and unlearning and growth.
Stop participating in your own oppression. What does that actually mean, though?
It means seeing how we internalize those messages and maybe even perpetuate them. Think about accepting low wages in a field dominated by certain groups. That just reinforces the idea that their work is worthless. Or staying silent when someone's being discriminated against. You're letting that bad stuff keep going.
It's breaking free, right? Seeing your worth, demanding it, both individually and as a group.
And realizing that we're all connected. No one's truly free until everyone is.
So education, then. It's not enough to just know about oppression. We got to understand how it actually works.
You're right. Go beyond surface level. Look at the history, the economics, the politics. How does power work? How do we challenge it effectively?
It's overwhelming, though.
Yeah.
Where do you even begin?
There's books, documentaries, podcasts, all kinds of stuff. Just be picky. Find diverse voices. Be critical.
And be ready to learn. Admit we don't know everything.
For sure. It's a lifelong journey. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And that's okay. Keep asking questions. Challenge your assumptions. Keep trying to understand.
Hey, the longer you wait, the worse this gets.
That's the truth. All these crises we're facing, climate, inequality, politics, they're all linked to this.
We're at a crossroads, for real.
We either keep going down the same path or we choose a new one that leads to justice for everyone.
It's about making the world better for everyone, not just ourselves.
Exactly. And we can do it if we're willing to fight.
So what does that fight look like? How do we challenge these systems?
It's not one size fits all, but the source material has some good ideas.
Let's hear them. It talks about holding our leaders accountable. What does that mean? Like, practically?
It's staying in the game, informed, engaged, research candidates, go to those town halls, call your reps, make sure they do what they promised.
Be an active citizen, not just a
bystander. Exactly. And your voice matters.
Yeah.
Even if it feels small, together we can make big changes.
What about supporting community initiatives? Why are they so important in this fight?
Because they're the ones on the ground doing the work. They know what their communities need.
They're the ones coming up with the solutions.
They get it. It's about trusting their wisdom, supporting their work.
For someone listening thinking, okay, I'm in, but how? How can they get involved with these initiatives?
Lots of ways. Donate time, money, skills. Go to rallies, protests. Speak out, educate yourself and others. Support local businesses owned by people from those communities. Advocate for better policies. Whatever you're good at, use it.
Contribute to the collective effort.
Every bit counts.
This has been eye-opening. It's hopeful we can actually do something.
We have more power than we think, and together we can change the world.
So the big takeaway here.
We can't fight oppression while we're funding it, but we can make choices every day that match our values.
It's a reminder that our choices matter.
They do. They have a ripple effect. We can create real change.
We'll be back with part 2 of this deep dive after a quick break. We'll be getting even more into how to actually turn all this into action.
What does it really mean to dismantle these systems? Stay with us.
So we're back. Before the break, remember how we were talking about community-led initiatives? How supporting them can really, shake things up.
Yeah, it's like turning the whole system upside down instead of waiting for change from the top.
You give the power to the people actually living it.
Exactly. They know what they need better than anyone. We've talked a lot about the external stuff, though, right? Spending, politics, getting involved in communities. But what about the internal work, looking at ourselves?
That's the heart of it. Honestly, it's not enough to just change your actions.
You got to change your mindset, too.
You got it. Got to look at those deep-seated beliefs, those biases we all have lurking around in there.
But how do you even untangle that stuff? It's wired into us.
It's honesty, first of all. Asking yourself those tough questions. What privileges do I have? What assumptions am I making about other people? Am I part of the problem without even realizing it?
Not exactly comfy questions, are they? No. And it's not a one-time thing. You got to keep learning, keep unlearning, keep growing. It's a process.
Stop participating in your own oppression. What does that even mean, practically speaking?
It's about seeing how we take in those harmful messages, And then sometimes we end up spreading them ourselves, accepting low wages in a field where, let's say, women or people of color are the majority. What's that saying? It's saying their work isn't worth you much. Or staying silent when you see discrimination happen.
You're letting it slide.
Exactly. It's about breaking out of that cycle, knowing your worth, demanding better for yourself and for everyone.
It's about realizing we're all in this together.
We are. No one is truly free until everyone is.
So education, then. It's not enough to just be aware of oppression. You got to understand how it works on a deeper level.
Yeah, go beyond the surface. Dig into the history, the economics, the politics of it all. How did we get here? And how do we change it? For good.
But where do you even start with all that? It can feel overwhelming.
There's so much out there. Books, documentaries, podcasts. You name it. Just be careful. Look for different perspectives and don't believe everything you read.
And be willing to learn, right? To say,
Yeah.
hey, I don't have all the answers.
Totally. It's a lifelong thing, this learning. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. And that's okay. It's about asking questions, challenging your assumptions, and always trying to understand better.
You know, the source material is really clear about this, like urgency. The longer we wait,
The worse it gets. That's just the truth.
all the problems we see, climate
Yeah.
change, inequality, the political stuff, it's all connected to this, isn't it?
It is. And we're at this point, this crossroads, where we have to decide,
Can we keep going down the same road?
or do we forge a new path, one that's fair, one that's just for everyone?
It's not just about making our own lives better. It's about
It's about making a world where everyone can thrive.
Mhm.
And we can do it, but we have to be willing to fight for it.
What does that fight look like, though? How do we actually challenge these systems?
It's a lot of things, and everyone has to find their own way.
Let's hear them. It talks about holding our leaders accountable. What does that mean, practically speaking?
It's being involved. Stay informed. Know the issues. Do your research on the people running for office. Go to those town hall meetings. Call your representatives. Make sure they actually follow through on their promises.
It's not just voting every few years and calling it a day.
Right. You got to be an active participant in the process, and your voice matters. I know it can feel small, but together.
We can make a big impact.
Exactly. And what about supporting those community-led initiatives? We talked about those earlier, remember?
Now, why are they so important in this whole thing?
They're the ones out there doing the work day in and day out. They understand what their communities actually need.
So it's about trusting them, supporting them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They have the wisdom, the experience, the solutions.
So for someone listening right now thinking, okay, I want to help, but how? What can they actually do to support those initiatives?
There's so many ways to contribute. Donate your time, your money, your skills. Go to rallies and protests. Speak out against injustice. Educate yourself. Educate others.
Yeah.
Support those local businesses owned by people from marginalized communities. Advocate for policies that promote equality and justice.
It's about finding what you're good at and
using it.
putting it to good use.
Every bit helps, truly.
This whole conversation has been, I don't know, it gives me hope. Like
Yeah.
we can actually make a difference.
We can. We have more power than we realize. Together, we can change the world.
So what's the main takeaway here?
We can't fight oppression if we're funding it, but we can make choices every single day that align with our values, choices that make a difference.
It's a powerful reminder that our actions,
They have consequences.
they do, and they can create real change.
They can change the world.
We're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, we're diving even deeper. How do we take all this knowledge, all this inspiration?
And turn it into action. Stick around.
All right, we're back. This whole episode has been pretty intense, right? Like, really makes you think about how we're all tangled up in these systems.
Yeah, but the good news is we can do something about it. We have power.
So, action time. Where do we start? The source material talks about our consumption habits, like really paying attention to what we buy.
It's not just about buying stuff you need. It's about asking, hey, does this company, actually walk the walk? Do they treat their workers fairly? What about the environment? Are they actually responsible?
And if they're not,
Then you got to make a choice. Do you keep supporting them or do you switch things up?
it's putting your money where your mouth is, right?
Huh.
If you really care about making things better, then
Your actions got to show it. And it doesn't have to be this huge overnight change.
little steps.
Exactly. Small changes add up.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Think about your coffee, right? Choose fair trade. Or instead of that huge chain store,
Support a local business.
bingo. And clothes. Look for brands that are sustainable.
It's about being more mindful, right?
Yeah.
Making sure your choices actually match what you believe in.
And sometimes, yeah, it might cost a bit more to buy ethical, sustainable stuff.
But it's an investment in a better future, right?
Think of it that way. You're investing in a healthier planet, stronger communities. Everyone wins.
The source material also talks about, like, actively seeking out those alternatives, the good ones.
Right. Instead of the big supermarket chain, go to the farmer's market. Ditch the fast food joint. Try that little family-owned restaurant down the street.
Love it. Support your local community.
And it's not just about the money, it's about building relationships, knowing where your food comes from, who made your clothes.
It's personal.
It is. It's like being part of something bigger than yourself.
Okay, what about holding our leaders accountable? We talked about that before. What does that look like in our everyday lives?
Stay informed, know what's going on, who are these people running for office, what do they stand for, go to those town hall meetings, ask questions, call your reps, email them, don't let them off the hook.
Make them do their jobs.
Right. Be an active citizen. And remember, your voice matters, even if it feels small, when we all speak up together.
It makes a difference.
A big one.
We've covered mindful consumption, supporting local and ethical businesses, holding our leaders accountable. What else can we do?
Knowledge is power, right? So educate yourself. Learn about these issues, the history, how these systems work.
Go deep.
And don't keep it to yourself. Talk to people about it. Have those hard conversations.
Don't be afraid to get uncomfortable.
Exactly. And those community-led initiatives, don't forget about those.
Why are they so important?
They're the ones on the front lines. They see the problems firsthand, and they're coming up with real solutions.
They know what works.
They do. Support them however you can. Amplify their voices.
So after this whole deep dive,
the message is clear. We can't fight oppression if we're funding it.
But we can make a difference. Every choice we make, every action we take.
It adds up. It creates change.
It's a reminder that we have power.
More than we think. And when we use it together, we can change the world.
That's all for this episode of Life Unfiltered. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And remember, keep learning, keep growing, keep fighting for a better world.